Okay, so welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to be looking into something pretty disturbing, actually.
Yeah.
The case of Elisa Lam.
Yeah, Elisa Lam.
So this is something that I think a lot of people listening are probably familiar with,
Yeah.
at least on some level, if not, all the ins and outs of it. But
hmm
basically, a 21-year-old college student from Canada on a solo trip
Right.
vanishes in Los Angeles
Yep, back in 2013.
in 2013.
January of 2013.
Yep.
A while ago.
A while ago.
Yeah.
But definitely a case that has captured people's imaginations.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those cases that sticks with you.
Yeah, it sticks with you. And it raises so many questions, and we're going to try to get into some of those questions today.
Absolutely.
The main source material we're going to be working with is this podcast called Unsolved Crime Tapes.
Okay.
Have you heard of this one?
I have. Yeah. It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
They did an episode 3 of their show is about
The Haunting Case of Elisa Lam.
the haunting case of Elisa Lam.
Yeah, they always had really catchy titles. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta give him that.
I know, it draws you in.
Yeah.
But so that's what we're going to be working with. And I think our goal today is to really lay out all the facts
Yep.
that we have available and then try to sift through them.
Right.
Look at the big mystery, what's the core of this case?
Absolutely.
And then look at all the different theories that have been proposed and try to see, do any of these hold water?
Right. Are there any that we can kind of, maybe eliminate from possibility? Are there any that seem extra plausible?
Yeah, exactly. And I think,
Maybe even come up with some of our own.
well, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Okay, so let's start by just setting the scene here.
Okay.
Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles January 26, 2013.
Great.
She's on a solo trip,
Right.
and she checks into the Cecil Hotel.
Oh, the Cecil Hotel. Okay.
Now, this is kind of
That's where things get a little creepy.
this is a key part of the story, I think, before we even get into the specifics of what happened to Elisa.
Right.
We have to understand this hotel.
Absolutely. The Cecil Hotel itself has a really kind of notorious past,
Yeah. What's the deal with this place?
Well, I mean, for one, it's been the site of a lot of suicides.
Oh, wow.
A lot of just general acts of violence over the years.
Really?
And then maybe the most chilling thing is that a couple of very well-known serial killers
Oh, gosh.
have stayed there. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Oh, right.
Jack Unterweger.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, he's another serial killer. But so it's just got this really, dark energy around it.
Yeah, it's like the hotel itself is almost a character in this story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it definitely, colors how people view the events that unfolded there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Elisa's at the Cecil Hotel, and for the first few days of her trip, she's in contact with her family.
Okay.
Things seem to be normal. She's exploring the city, having a typical tourist experience.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, on January 31st, all communication stops.
Oh.
This is where things start to get really weird.
Yeah, that's a big red flag.
Yeah. So her parents obviously start to get really worried
Of course.
when she doesn't check out of the hotel when she's supposed to,
Right.
and they can't get a hold of her.
Yeah, and that's when they end up contacting the police,
Right.
and the official investigation begins.
Yeah.
And this is really where the mystery starts to unfold, because
Yeah.
they search her room, they search the hotel,
Right.
and there's absolutely no trace of her.
She vanished.
She's gone.
Yeah. Okay, so now we get to the part of the story that I think has really fueled a lot of the speculation and the fascination with this case.
Okay.
Weeks into the investigation, the LAPD releases this security camera footage
Okay.
from one of the hotel elevators.
Uh-huh.
And I think if you've heard of the Elisa Lam case, you've probably seen this footage.
Right, it's infamous.
It's infamous, and it's really unsettling.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
So what we see in this footage is Elisa getting into the elevator, and she starts pressing all these buttons.
Oh.
But the doors don't close.
So the elevator's not working properly, it sounds like.
Well, what's so strange is it seems like maybe it is, maybe it isn't,
Okay.
because she keeps pressing the buttons,
Right.
and then she starts looking out into the hallway,
Okay.
like she's expecting someone.
Like she's looking for someone.
Yeah, looking for someone, or maybe hiding from someone.
Okay, so already it's like, your spidey senses are tingling a little bit.
Oh, yeah, right away you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, something's not right.
Yeah. And then it gets even weirder because her movements get really erratic.
Okay.
She steps in and out of the elevator.
Uh-huh.
She's kind of waving her arms around like
Like she's talking to someone.
yeah, like she's talking to someone that we can't see.
Right. It's like she's having a conversation with a ghost or something.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the big questions
Right.
is she playing some kind of game? Is she hiding from someone?
Yeah.
Is she reacting to something that we as the viewers can't perceive?
Right. And I think the big question, too, is what was her state of mind at this point?
Yeah, we don't know.
Could she have been experiencing some sort of mental health episode?
Right?
Was she on any substances that might have been affecting her behavior? I mean, we just don't have that information, and that makes it really difficult to interpret what we're seeing.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that makes this case so disturbing, is we're left with this footage.
Right.
And so many questions.
And no answers.
And no answers. And what makes it even more disturbing is that this is the last known footage of Elisa alive.
Yeah, that's the last time anyone sees her.
Yeah, so weeks go by.
Right.
The investigation continues, but there are no real leads.
Right.
And then a new detail emerges that is particularly creepy.
Okay.
Guests at the hotel start complaining about the water pressure.
What?
Yeah, the water pressure is really low.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I've stayed in hotels with bad water pressure, but I don't know if I'd complain about it.
right. Well, I think in this case, it was more than just bad water pressure. It was like extremely low, and the water itself tasted weird.
Oh, ew.
Yeah, and it had like a strange smell.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, it's like a little detail, but it ends up being really significant.
Okay.
So on February 19, 2013, almost 3 weeks after Elisa disappeared,
Okay.
a maintenance worker at the Cecil is sent up to the roof
Okay.
to check the water tanks
Okay.
because of these complaints.
All right.
And he makes a horrifying discovery.
Okay.
Elisa Lam's body is in one of the water tanks.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
So that's where she was this whole time.
that's where she was.
Oh, my gosh.
And the details of this are really unsettling.
Yeah.
She was naked.
Oh, wow.
Her body was decomposing,
Oh, God.
and her clothes, her watch, and her room key were found at the bottom of the tank.
Okay, hold on. So her body's in the water tank, but her stuff is also in the water tank.
Yeah,
How does that even happen?
that's one of the big questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, how did she even get into the water tank in the first place?
Right. The podcast really emphasizes this point. These water tanks were sealed,
Sealed.
like they had heavy lids that were, closed.
Right.
And access to the rooftop was supposed to be restricted.
Like locked doors.
Locked doors, alarms.
Okay.
So it seems almost impossible that she could have gotten up there and into one of these tanks on her own.
Right, unless she had help.
Unless she had help or
Unless something really strange happened.
yeah, something really strange happened.
Yeah.
So the official ruling on this case was accidental drowning.
Okay.
They said that her bipolar disorder, which she had been diagnosed with,
Right.
might have played a role.
Okay.
But as you can see from everything we've just talked about, there are a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, a lot of holes in that theory.
A lot of holes.
For sure.
So that's why a lot of people have come up with alternative theories.
Right, because something doesn't add up.
Something doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So the podcast goes through a few of these.
Okay.
One of the big ones is the paranormal theory.
Oh, the paranormal. Okay.
So because of the Cecil Hotel's history,
Right, all the creepy stuff that's happened there.
all the creepy stuff, right? People have wondered if maybe Elisa was possessed
Oh.
or if there was some kind of malevolent presence in the hotel that influenced her behavior.
Right, so they're trying to explain that weird elevator footage.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe she wasn't acting alone.
Right, maybe something else was controlling her.
Yeah, and this theory, it's definitely fueled by the hotel's reputation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to think about that when you hear about this case.
Right.
You know?
Okay, so then there's this other theory that's kind of a conspiracy theory,
Okay.
and it revolves around a tuberculosis outbreak
Tuberculosis. Okay.
that was happening in L.A. around the same time that Elisa disappeared.
All right.
And the test that was used to detect this particular strain of TB was called the Lam-Elisa test.
Lam-Elisa.
Okay. Yeah. So people have pointed out the similarity between Elisa's last name,
Lamb.
Lam, and part of the name of this test,
Oh, Lisa.
Elisa, and they've speculated that maybe there's some connection there.
Okay, so are they saying that she was part of some sort of experiment?
Well, that's kind of where the theory goes, that
Right.
maybe there was some kind of government cover-up or
Yikes.
something like that.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's no real evidence to support
But
this.
it's just a coincidence.
It's just a coincidence, but it's one of those things that people latch onto
Right, because it's so strange.
because it's so strange and they're trying to make sense of it.
Right.
Okay, so then there's a third theory that the podcast talks about, and this one's a little more grounded.
Okay.
It's the idea of a murder cover-up.
Oh, a murder cover-up.
Yeah, so because of the locked rooftop access,
Right.
the alarms, the fact that it took so long to find Elisa's body,
Right.
even though people were complaining about the water,
Yeah.
Some people believe that someone at the hotel, or maybe someone outside the hotel,
Right.
was involved in her death,
Okay.
and that maybe the accidental drowning ruling was a way to cover it up.
Oh, to hide the truth?
Yeah.
So are they thinking like maybe a staff member was involved or?
Possibly, yeah, or someone who had access to the hotel somehow,
Right, right.
um, and that, maybe they panicked. They
Yeah,
tried to make it look like an accident.
right.
Um,
It's scary to think about, but I guess it's possible.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility, and it would explain some of the things that don't make sense.
Right, like how she got up to the roof and
Exactly.
into that tank.
Yeah. So as you can see, we're left with this really unsettling case.
Yeah, with no real resolution.
No resolution.
It's frustrating.
It's so frustrating, and it's just so sad.
Yeah.
A young woman goes on a trip, and then she just vanishes.
And the circumstances are just so bizarre.
So bizarre.
Yeah.
So we've laid out the facts, we've looked at some of the theories, and now I'm really curious to hear what you think.
Yeah. What do you think happened?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this case? Do
Like-
any of these theories stand out to you?
Yeah, or do you have another theory? Maybe something we haven't even considered.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember that we're just working with the information that we have available.
Right.
And there could be other details out there that we don't know about.
Right. There could be something that the police uncovered that they haven't released to the public.
Exactly. Or something that someone witnessed but hasn't come forward with yet.
Right.
So, yeah, if you have any thoughts or theories, we'd love to hear them.
Absolutely. And I would encourage everyone listening to go and do some more research on this case.
Yes.
There's so much information out there. The podcast we talked about is a great place to start,
Yes.
but there are also news articles, documentaries. You can really dive deep into this.
Yeah, and, as you're doing your research, think about the bigger picture here.
Right.
What does this case tell us about the limits of our understanding?
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a world where we want everything to have a logical explanation.
Right. We want answers.
We want answers, but sometimes there just aren't any.
Or the answers are more complicated than we want them to be.
Yeah, or maybe we're not asking the right questions.
Right.
So I think the case of Elisa Lam is a reminder that there are still mysteries out there.
Absolutely.
Things that we may never fully understand.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, maybe that's okay.
It keeps things interesting.
It does keep things interesting.
Yeah.
All right, well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everyone,
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.